Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in, because in this video we are going to be doing an overview of GameSticks and not game boxes. Because when it comes to the game boxes, oh boy, that's a super rabbit hole where there are so many different options. But in this video I want to focus on the solution, or the 4K GameSticks they call them. Yep, and there are many versions out there, and just wanted to give you a quick overview of a couple of options are maybe interesting. So it's a time for the package from China. Yeah! Okay, so when it comes to GameSticks, I just want to do a quick overview of a couple of them. Particularly when it comes to some of the 8-bit or 16-bit versions, they are not great at all. But I just want to implement them in this video with a simple reason, because they are game sticks and actually you can just stick them in your monitor or your TV and play 8-bit or 16-bit games. So let's first tune into that. But if you don't care about all those different platforms, you do have like these very cool, tiny, very cheap game stick devices that we can play, let's say only 8-bit in this case, having just a wireless configuration of a tiny dongle and two cool looking controllers. And this way we can just play all kinds of 8-bit games. You're going to be plugging this thing into your television and you're ready to go. But if you're going to be looking into the game list and everything, also the platform, this is the main menu actually when booting up the device. We have a user folder where we can load up or sideload different new games. But this thing is out of the box quite, let's say, extended for just a very cheap device. It's only 8-bit at this point, but you can see that we're having all kinds of different variations of games. And what is kind of cool is that they implemented a quick load and quick save feature where we can just store our games and go further later on, and an aspect ratio option. The question remains, how is the overall emulation quality? Because that's what it is. It's not FPGA emulation, so it will be one-on-one spot on with the original system. But I can tell you it comes really close. We do have some weird stuff going on at the bottom part over there. So the overall emulation is not perfect. I must say they did an amazing job. And for the money you're actually paying for stuff like this, yeah, for the money, we cannot really complain. And if you're a big fan of the Sega franchise, particularly the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive or the 16-bit era, also here they made a plug-and-play stick. Yep, if you just want to have that particular system, that is possible. With the menu looking completely different again, I'm guessing they are running on an Android backend or some kind of it. However, it's kind of interesting to see how this looks completely different, and now having only 16-bit games. The menu, you can see that is similar to the 8-bit and the 16-bit version, only it's more similar actually to the 8-bit, with the tiny preview at the left, no videos, just a pure picture to give you an idea what the game is. And yeah, so far you can see we do have alphabetic order, so that seems to be fine. But we don't have any search results or a search engine whatsoever. We do have the same folder, so we can sideload some games, which you can actually see over there if you're going to be putting them on an SD card. But let's take a close look at the overall performance from how it is with the Sega Genesis plug-and-play stick. Ow! But after using the knob up for some time, unfortunate thing is that it just stopped working. Out of nothing, yep, I've tried different cable, power supplies, everything else, but no success there. It's quite unfortunate because I really enjoyed myself some old school Sega, and it was absolutely cool, man. If you just want to enjoy some purely Sega and no other things, this would be a very fun and, let's say, cheap way to play. Yeah, but this is one of the things that happens a lot with these cheap products. Yeah, if this is actually the PCB that broke down or the SD card, because this is another problem, they are brandless. They are using these like cheap brandless things. I think this is just one of the reasons that they are like making them so cheap every single time. And sometimes in the flash sales they're going for prices that makes no sense whatsoever. But if you just want to play some Super Famicom, yep, they also made the SF900. And this is just a plug-and-play Super NES controller set with another HDMI stick. So where we don't have like say an NES games now, we do have Super NES games, and I think that is pretty cool. The menu itself looks absolutely stunning when you're going to be checking out the Super NES. It's a similar idea with different kind of platforms, but they have like a graphical improvement over the 8-bit version. Yeah, besides getting the game list, you can see actually that the game list is quite basic, even a little bit more basic than the NES part, so that's kind of weird. But the Super NES version also contains the same kind of software when it comes to quick load, quick save and also aspect ratio. So that is kind of interesting that they did use the same kind of style when it comes to that. And when you're looking at the performance when it comes to emulation, it's quite good. So let's go back to the scaling options, select start. Here you can see like we can make a quick save if you want to. It's quite nice. I'm going to give you the screenshot. Scaling up. Press resume again, start. And we're back with the aspect ratio. Okay, so next up let's try Desert Strike just to see one of my favorite games. If it's going to start about the chopper. Get to the chopper. Get to it now. Sorry, just needed to say that. But this game I played it so much as a child. It is a really fun game to play. It's not like a big series. I think they had Soviet Strike, Nuclear Strike. They ported it to the PlayStation 1, to the N64. But this thing on the Super Nintendo looked really cool. But here you can see like this game runs just fine. So this was more like a problem with a certain game. Still, like even now, I find it a little bit of a bummer that we have some issues with some games. When you're looking at the image quality and also how smooth the game is, I find it quite disappointing because still I find the image itself quite choppy. I don't find it a very pleasant experience to watch too. Okay, so next up let's do a little bit on pinball, but I must say like I'm quite disappointed when it comes to the performance of the games. I was hoping that we're actually going to get like perfect gameplay, but sadly they completely messed it up. A lot of glitching here and there, and I find the games running quite choppy. And again, it's disappointing because you can see like nowadays we're having so many of these boxes stuff that runs Super Famicom just great. So nothing beats the original deal, that is just a fact today. Alright, so let's take a close look in the inside of what this thing made of. Is it actually like an Android box or an Android stick? Okay, let's get my pry tool. Okay, you can just open it up very easy. Oh man, so what I hate about these things, like they basically like remove the information of the chip. So you don't know actually what kind of stuff is running. I'm guessing this is the memory. Here on the other side where we're going to get a lot of chips, and of course here we're going to get the receiver for the remotes. So that's it, like that's the only thing that we're going to get. There is no cooling whatsoever because this thing is also getting really hot. Like I can still hold it in my hands, but I think it will not be very dangerous. You can see like over here in the shell there are some ventilation holes, but I rather see like some better cooling elements on this. But yeah, it doesn't by the way even matter because this thing runs pretty damn horrible when it comes to the gameplay. In some random super sale I've picked up this kit for $15. Like it's the same amount you're paying for those 8-bit and 16-bit sticks, and I was thinking this cannot be true, but indeed they are having these GameSticks, 4K GameSticks now, and it was actually the Kinhank official, or at least in Kinhank store. If it's official, there's something of a debatable situation of course, but Kinhank is actually the company doing those Supercon Slick things. And I was thinking like, hey, maybe they just rebranding it because that is something they're doing all of the time as a manufacturer making those 4K GameStick for everyone. However, so I was quite intrigued by it, because is it any good and did it do any improvements? Where the GameSticks look slightly different. It does come with the same PlayStation 2 chemical cheap controllers with no rumble function, and of course with the cheap SD card inside you should always back up. But yeah, this thing is the same HDMI plug and play situation. But let's take a close look at the menu. Getting some Pandora's box vibes with the menu itself, because it's kind of similar but also better in some ways. So the Pandora's box was actually one of those first products I've checked out, and the menu has been coming back to many different devices including GameSticks. To do implement platforms, I'm very happy with this. So you can see we're having all kinds of different platforms, also the 8-bit and 60-bit that we're having with those cheap GameSticks. But the GameStick itself has a lot of, let's say, interesting features to it. So it's a quite complete plug and play kit, and that for this crazy amount of $15. And again, it's a sale price, so you need to deep dive into sales to get one for not a lot of money. However, when you're going to be seeing what you can do is absolutely awesome. However, it goes all the way up to PlayStation 1 with many of these cheaper boxes or GameSticks. But also we have a search option that seems to be working quite fast, and that was another problem I've noticed with a lot of these cheap game boxes, GameSticks. So favorite list and even in history list. So there's a quite extended menu when it comes for playing old school retro emulation. So pressing select and start, he'll give you the exit game, save state. Let's make a save state. We can make it save, so it actually like remembers with a tiny screenshot, so that is cool. Loading, we do have a different video display effect with fast CRT scan line, and yeah, that is kind of cool. Whoa, okay, that looks really awful. No input lag of the audio, so emulation performance is quite good. So let's go into the supersonic mode when we're going to be running like crazy. Sometimes we do have a lot of screen tearing going on. No, it's not, at least not noticeable. So for Game Boy Advance emulation, oh, it's not bad at all. I do have an idea that there is audio delay. Would that be the problem that I went for a different approach of the... Why do I get the idea that it's actually going to be looking into the fast? I think it's personally that I think I see something, but no, it is just working like it's supposed to be. So when you're looking into this, it's kind of interesting, and overall emulation performance quite nice. For playing the beat 'em up games, D-pad is just working fine. So far so good, exit the game, and that's it. So example, I'm going to be booting it up again. If you want to go into loading time, going to be loading, and that's it. So when it comes to the quick load, quick save, I love it. So let's move on to the NES. And I have seen a lot of weird overall emulation, but so far the overall emulation performance is quite good. I don't notice any screen tearing or whatsoever. They implemented the turbo buttons. The PlayStation 1 is a system that is absolutely awesome. How unfortunate is that we do have some weird mapping with buttons. There's no mistake now with the audio. We do have the original soundtrack, so that is great, because I had this problem many times. Emulation performance seems to be running just fine. Okay, I do wonder what happens. Okay, so we're having even the option for different BIOS if you want to. So if you have problems, you can switch between that. We also have all kinds of cool filters. Let's put it on a different one over there. But let's do another testing of the PlayStation part. I do have like an audio delay. The thing what we can actually do is going to the different BIOS. Let's return, and it will automatically reset the system again. Or just freeze. What the heck? Can we restart it? Okay, restart game. Well, let's get into the game and with the different BIOS setting. Let's see. Yep, it has been set to the BIOS setting. Let's see if we still have this weird delay that I have noticed before. Loading times are quite long for loading from SD card. Yeah, I still got the idea that we have an input delay, or at least for the audio. So where this thing is a really cheap controller, the D-pad where it feels like sandpaper, the input is great. Let's do all the moves. Can I do the dual mode? Yep, there we go. Okay, so when it comes to the joysticks, they are completely worthless. Can I do a shoryuken? If so, could it give me the moment to try. So the D-pad for this really cheap console is just great, besides the horrible joysticks, of course. So the GameSticks, when it comes to manufacturing, I don't know if there are multiple factories, but it's also interesting to open it up. So first of all, this is the H133 all-winner chip. This is something you don't see very often. I think they're mostly using the S905 and the X2 and X3 chips. And cooling wise, yeah, there is no cooling at all. However, I've been using this stick for quite a long time, and the heat itself, I'm surprisingly how cool it is. So when it comes to, let's say, everything, the build quality, it's very cheaply made, and there is nothing much to see over here. Next up, let's take a close look at the GameStick 3D. So this one was also known by the Pow Kitty, and nevertheless, let's check out, is this thing any worth your money, your time, and etc. So the big brand is called 3D GameStick, and they're just selling this thing under different names. For example, the GameStick Y6. So what I'm actually going to get is first of all a very nice fancy menu. Here we're going to get ourselves like a quick menu, and here we can see that we're having select and start for the special options, X for search, favorite, Y, B for back, and A for select. At the top we're going to get different kind of, let's say, platforms, and there are a lot of them. From the 8-bit, 16-bit era, even some pocket devices like the Game Gear and the Neo Geo Pocket and Mega Drive 32X. There's a lot of cool stuff you can actually play with it and a lot of new features. At the left side we're going to get ourselves just a list with the games that are on there. I did notice some of them are having an alphabetic order, but some don't. And touching a certain controller will also give you an indication which controller is basically navigating through the menu. And last but not least, we're going to get ourselves a tiny screenshot for every single game that you're going to be choosing. I think it's pretty cool. There is no video that we have seen before, but I think they're doing this because it takes up a lot of space, having every single time a tiny, let's say a tiny video playing when you're actually choosing a game. So when you're looking at the menu, they changed it out with all the previous models. First of all, when pressing up and down, this is the same like always, you're going to the next game. By pressing left and right, here we can choose different kind of, let's say, category. And pressing the shoulder buttons, here we're going to skip basically a page in the certain platform. Okay, let's take a close look at the search functionality. Pressing X. I'm curious if you're going to have a delay. I've noticed with some of the sticks it's really annoying to search because you're going to have the feeling that it needs to be loading every single time something. But they completely not messed it up this time. Still, they're messing stuff like that up. Absolutely unforgivable. No aspect ratio. So that is something also that they can improve in the next model. But graphical wise, it will run on original resolution so far I can see. But it runs pretty damn smooth and everything looks quite nice. Next up, I wanted to try some MAME emulation just to see what we're actually going to get. So enter some credits. I do see this weird, very strange filter over it that trying to look it a little bit better, or that's the feeling I'm having. Pressing select and start will give you the same option like before, but pressing both joysticks, here we're going to get ourselves into the emulator settings. So I think it's pretty damn cool. Here game information, game history, we can even implement some cheats if you want to. Let's say infinite. Live can be set to on. Alright, there we go. And here you are, we have infinite life and we can just cheat the system. Nevertheless, when you're looking at the gameplay, the button layout seems to be working like it should be. So that's the part they didn't mess up. Pressing select to start will give you more like a semi-PP SSPP emulator. Control options, here you can see you can get into the controls, but that's it, you know, it has been locked down, so there is no way of messing with the freaking options. I find a little bit of a bummer because with these systems you can sometimes tweak it and get a pretty damn good result with low power chips. Of course, frame skipping will be enabled with these things. I can already tell you that because otherwise it wouldn't run. But what's even interesting, there is like a God of War in here, but those games will not run at all. If you want to relive your old games of the N64 era, I can tell you it's going to be absolutely hit or miss. Some games will run okay, but some will just look absolutely horrendous. You can see like the glitching going on, and that is the thing that I really hate about these cheap products sometimes. That they're saying they will run something, but in my opinion, when it glitches like crazy, it makes it unplayable. But also where this Y6 model is better in some ways, it still has a lot of problems that we have seen before. But let's get to the golden oldie, the Super Console X, because that one is expensive, but it's still very nice when it comes to, let's say, the comparison with all the other models. Okay, so first of all, this is a very old product. So this is an Emulation 3.9. This is where it all started with the S905X chip. So we had a couple of different ones like the L, the M, whatsoever. So, but what I do love about this device is actually what it's capable of, because the Emulation software is something I really love about this thing. I mean, in particular, when you're going to be looking into the main menu, this is so much more superior than all the other cheap ones. I mean, the most of them, let's say the Y6 or the Kinhang stick had like these Pandora's boxes menu, but this looks so much better when it comes to that. Where we are always looking into the next best thing. The problem is that most of these things are running like the old S905 chipsets. Where I'm saying that isn't a bad thing, it's just absolutely great when playing old school games. Where personally I love to play some old school 16-bit games like the Sega Genesis or Super Famicom, they run perfectly. And if you just want to experience some old school arcade games, 64th Street, Mortal Kombat 1, where we have some minor limitations when it comes to Killer Instinct Tekken, most games run just fine. But yeah, when it comes to, let's say, Mortal Kombat, I'm always doing this testing simply because it's a very demanding game. We have played it a lot on Pandora's boxes, where it wasn't hit or miss, but with the Super Console X we had no problem whatsoever. So we're getting into N64, a system that I cherish forever because it has so many cool, let's say, nostalgia games with 4-player configuration. Unfortunate with these game sticks, it's not playable, and you should look into Batocera with a mini PC to get an overall good performance there. So where this thing did came with a lot of problems left and right, I think it's still a very fun product to, let's say, play on nowadays, simply because we have so many cool overall, let's say emulators that can run fine on this all the way up to PlayStation 1, having even possibility to play some Sega MAME, but even PlayStation 1 on the original resolution, it do great in combination with some bezels, because otherwise you're going to have like the widescreen shenanigans that we have seen many times before. PlayStation Portable is a system I personally would remove most of the time, because the emulator, they're using it way too, let's say, old, in combination with, let's say, very problematic issues. That where this particular game seems to be running just fine with the Metal Slug collection, you will see most of the games will not run fine when it comes to three-dimensional games. Okay, so we have checked out all kinds of game sticks here. We skipped a couple of them because there were way too many of them. But you know, they call them the 4K game sticks. But you know, there is nothing 4K about those. Simply because all of them are just running on some lower, let's say, resolution. And they come with a lot of limitations. But did you know there is a stick that we can actually use that have, I would say, less limitations? And that is the PC game stick. Yeah. This is still in stick, so actually this is not a plug and play, it's just a mini PC in a stick format. Yeah, you can just stick it in your monitor and you're having a full-size PC. And if you're going to be using this with Batocera, and we're going to be doing a quick overview, what is Batocera and what you can do and whatever, you can do some really cool things with it, because now we do have way more power and a lot of limitations will be gone. So first of all, when it comes to the size, you can just see that this mini PC is absolutely crazy how huge this thing is. Yeah, I know, that's what she said. But the thing is, when it comes to these, let's say, cheap game stick, even if you're getting no focus at all, like me, and you just want to play these things, they're just great. You just plug it into your HDMI. If you have a good SD card, you can just enjoy all kinds of 8-bit and 16-bit and PlayStation games. But they are limited. And when you're getting into a different class, you're also going to get a different kind of price tag. The more fine Intel, let's say, mini PC that is inside of this thing is absolutely awesome. So first of all, the model number is the M1K, and it comes only with the J4125. We have already different models out there, but they also come with a way bigger price tag. It comes with 8 GB of internal RAM and 128 GB of storage for the Windows itself. Okay, so we can remove the cap, and this is actually the thing. We can just plug it in, and yep, it's absolutely huge. So if you're going to be plugging it in and it doesn't fit, so you also have extension cords that you can plug in and use it like that. We're going to get ourselves 2 USB ports. One I'm going to use for the hard drive, another one for the controller. And we also have the option for a micro SD card. So if you want to put Batocera on that, that is also possible. And of course, here we're having the input for the power supply. So that's actually what we're getting. An on and off switch on top. And there's nothing more. But let's chit chat about Batocera and all the other options we're having. But shall we do a sneak peek in the inside? How will it look? We can remove the top cover fairly easy. Always be very gentle. So you can just already see that the Wi-Fi antenna has been like stick with some Velcro tape or double side. Yeah, it's Velcro tape if they call it. And they just put it on the top part over here so we have the best Wi-Fi receiving. But the thing is, it's interesting to see how tiny this thing is when it comes to, let's say, the fan and everything else. It's absolutely amazing how, let's say, small they can make them, but it also makes them more expensive to make. And of course, the price will be, let's say, way more expensive than your typical mini PC. But this is what we're getting in the inside. Yeah, there is nothing much to see beside this. Yep, and yeah, when it comes to less storages, also there, you don't have a lot of, like, say, upgrade options. But if you want, and you do have the option to just plug in straight into your television, yep, this is how it's actually going to be looking. It is absolutely huge and just sticking out of your monitor itself. But yeah, that is actually what we signed up for ordering, let's say, a game stick or a computer game stick. Another thing we can also do is, if you don't want to plug it in like this, here we're having the all famous extension cord or HDMI extender that I was talking about, and we can just plug it in like that. And it's just dangling around behind your monitor itself. Another solution, what they're selling, is one with or without a controller. I think one of those companies is Kinhank. It's the same situation where they're having 2 terabyte hard drive. I think there were even cheaper small ones, but 2 terabyte is basically the sweet spot when it comes to the storage capacity. Yeah, and if you're getting into, let's say, the PlayStation 3 and stuff like that, and you have a more powerful device, then you're going to be having an issue, because then we need absolute more than 2 terabyte. They're selling it without a controller or with a controller. They are the BiTop controllers, I'm pronouncing the name correctly. They are similar like a PlayStation 4-ish controller, very nice quality. And this kit is, in my opinion, still one of the favorite ones. We're going to get the software. You can just download this for free. Batocera.org. Here we can find the software that we're going to need for installing and get yourself like this mini PC to run all kinds of retro games. So what you need to do is go into the download page, and you can already see over here that we have all kinds of, let's say, hardware that is supported with Batocera. So this is not like some simple program that is only possible to use on a mini PC. There are all kinds of different handhelds and devices, or just general devices that can get the Batocera running. But the thing that we're going to need, we're not going to scroll through the whole list. In here we're finding the desktop, laptop and other devices. That is one of the ways you can go to. But another thing you can do is, depending on what kind of software we're needing, is that we're having underneath, we're having all kinds of different versions, even to the Anthem and the low power devices. And here we're having old PCs. You can even run Batocera on that too. If you're going to be needing to flash this on a certain kind of storage device, the program that I most of the time use is Balena Etcher. It's a very nice to use free download. You can just download it for free and getting yourself your Batocera installed and flashed on, no, I don't want to have your cookies, reject all. And then of course use this on your Windows device or even on Mac OS. From this point you can just launch the file they've downloaded, the image file, and just burn it to your storage device, depending on the model you're having, but in the end it's going to be the same kind of BIOS functionality. So if you're being in the BIOS, most of them pressing the F9 or the Del button, but before booting up Windows, here we need to go to the security. So the secure boot needs to be shut off, and the reason why, otherwise it's not possible to boot into Batocera. Another thing that you need to check out is the boot. So here you can already see boot option 1 has been set to Windows Boot Manager. What you need to do is set this actually to the Kinhank or the Batocera one you have made. What you can also do, if you don't want to use Windows, you can disable this. So you're actually only going to get yourself the Kinhank boot. So here we're going into the save, going to save changes and exit. And when you've done this, it will automatically boot into Batocera. But when it comes to Batocera, we do have so much more power now. Where this is a low-end chip, don't get me wrong. But some limitations, like with the N64 and Atomic Wave, even with a little bit of a tweaking, we can do some really cool stuff that we couldn't do before. And of course, with this software we're running, we have the freedom to do whatever we want to. I mean, you can upscale, add bezels, you name it, you can do whatever you want with it. Batocera is a very cool piece of software that you can just download for free. However, so when you're looking in the systems, this is so much more extended than the normal GameSticks. And if you want to spend a little bit more money, this is another very cool way to play. But of course, this is not plug and play, so you do need to do a little bit of tinkering. And if you're getting like the N100 chip, or maybe in the future a more powerful one, we can maybe do even some GameCube and some PlayStation 2. But yeah, that is always a little bit of a debatable situation, which chip you're having. This particular one will not run PlayStation 2, so we're still limited to a certain point. But it's so much better than the other cheap GameSticks. Yeah, come on, they are like really cheap. However, with this particular model, you can see that it's running already on 53 Celsius. This is quite, let's say, hot if you ask me. But yeah, that's what we're getting with these very compact designs. So this is running the 4125 Intel CPU, running on 2 GHz and having the 650, or which GPU was it? That was the onboard Intel GPU processor. Let me go, scroll a little bit further. Yeah, the 600 model it was. So the combination is not like the most ultimate combination, but we still have a little bit of power. So let's tune into some gaming and I will show you what I mean. Alright, so we're starting off with some PlayStation 2. That is a system that doesn't even run on cheaper game boxes. But with a product like this, yeah, we don't have just enough power to actually run this. It's quite interesting to see that it actually boots up. but you just see that it struggles big time getting this to run. What would be cool to check out in the future, some GameSticks with a little bit more power, just to see how we can actually get PlayStation and other systems running. But so far, it's quite interesting to see that it even boots up and we can actually play something. Okay, so next up I just wanted to play some PlayStation Portable. PlayStation 2 is maybe something we cannot really play on this, but PlayStation Portable is playable, or most of the games, where we have absolutely horrible overall emulation performance with cheap game boxes. With this mini PC or mini GameStick can actually play PlayStation Portable. I've been tweaking with some games, also with upscaling, but I've noticed that we don't have amazing overall performance and we just need a different configuration of chipset to get overall better performance. Because this is just fun for the native resolution on most games. 3DO is one of those systems I could never really enjoy when it comes to the cheap game boxes. Think about 50 all the way up to $100 freaking dollars. But with the GameStick or the mini PC stick, we can actually play this without any problem whatsoever. It will be running on native resolution, but I don't really mind that. Indeed. Jet Set Radio is one of those systems from Xbox Classic that's absolutely great. And there are many different games that will run either on this. But take consideration that also when it comes to, let's say, low power devices, we will find a lot of games that will struggle with this. So if you want to get into this, I think you just need to have more power. And in the future it would be cool to check out some other mini PCs that have like similar specifications, or at least a very same price, but can maybe play this without any problem. Where Jet Set Radio seems to be working just fine. Another system that is pretty damn awesome to play on this is of course GoldenEye. This doesn't really run on many of the cheaper game boxes, and it looks kinda nice even on the native resolution. I didn't got a lot of questions what kind of system can run N64, and this actually, for the people who are wondering, this is the answer. You did hear some minor stuttering going on, but the overall performance is absolutely great. Okay, so next up I just wanted to check out some GameCube. And with the GameCube you are really pushing it to the limit when it comes to this. The same with the PlayStation 2 emulation. We do have an okay emulation with some hiccups, so it's still playable. But if you're getting into the less demanding, maybe some two-dimensional, you can even have some better performance. So it's quite interesting to see actually GameCube running on this to a point that it is actually playable. And even if you're going to be playing more and more, it's going to be like rendering and emulating it way better than before. But one thing for sure, I'm getting my ass kicked here. But another thing I just wanted to check out is Sega Dreamcast, one of my favorite systems to play. But with this mini PC we can even upscale it to the 720p resolution. And it looks absolutely astonishing when you're looking at this picture over here. I hope the camera picks it up. And that's one of the things you cannot do with cheap game boxes. And you can do with, say, a basic cheap mini PC. Making Batocera, in my opinion, way superior than it comes to these game boxes you need to pay maybe almost, let's say, half the money for. But if you don't want to tinker with hard drive and all the craziness, yeah, this is something you should avoid. But I wanted to implement it in the video to showcase what is actually possible when it comes to GameSticks. Yeah, if you can buy something ready to go, we have like a tons of limitation, but with a GameStick like this, we do have a little bit more power. And of course, maybe with the N100 or another more powerful chip in the inside, we're going to be having overall way better performance. Thank you all for watching. I hope this video helped out and gives a good overview of all of the different options we're having when it comes to really cheap to the cheap, that only like plays one single 8-bit or 60-bit platform, but also another stick you can just stick in, like a Kinhank or a Super Console X stick, and giving you a little bit of an overview of a couple of these game sticks and what are the differences and what can you expect. Thank you all for watching, and it would be great if I see you in the next video.